But this one I saw and I leaned forward, I grabbed my desk and I pulled forward, I go, that's going to matter. Did you feel the economy stumble? I want to talk about some of the things that it's been tripping on. Everything in this video is something that's going to matter to you, something that's going to affect you directly. The fact that you're here and you have your eyes on this topic puts you in a very small minority. But therein also lies your opportunity. We're going to start closer to home, then we're going to talk about something overseas that's absolutely blown up. And then we'll talk about a few things that you can do about all of this. Ways to help yourself, to land on your feet on the other side of this. I'm even going to tell you what Drew did. Student loan payments resume in October. There's already a lot of financial hardships. That's why retail has been collapsing so badly. I told you about the retail apocalypse 2.0. And if you've ever been to a mall lately, you don't have to look at the numbers for this stuff. You don't have to be an analyst. You go to the mall, and it's less crowded than it used to be. So many more stores out of business. But you can see it for yourself every day. You just have to look around. But if you want to get into more charts, we'll look at some stuff from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. These are delinquencies. It's playing out now exactly like I told you. The interest rate hikes at first don't affect you at all. And then they start to build up. When it's higher levels of interest, goes on a little bit longer, then it starts to take a toll. This is how you're seeing it starting to manifest, as I told you it would. And what's going to happen next, I'll tell you that too. Credit cards. The delinquency rate is rising really fast from a low base. Even the delinquencies on consumer loans is increasing pretty markedly. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is going to happen to these trends? Do you think that the delinquencies will turn around and start coming down? Or do you think as we go on with high interest rates that they'll just continue climbing? You make your own decision. You know what my thoughts are. What's held up pretty well are mortgages. And I attribute that a lot to the fact that real estate is really holding its value. It's holding its demand. There's still such an incredibly low inventory. But this will be in line with when real estate prices start coming down. You'll see the delinquencies also start rising at that point. We're just at a base here. This is the low point where it's going to look just like the credit card delinquencies and just like the consumer loan delinquencies. The rate of mortgage delinquencies and auto loan delinquencies will eventually look just like the credit card delinquencies we're seeing right now. This is from CNBC. Mortgage demand drops to a 27-year low as interest rates pull back. Applications for a mortgage to purchase a home fell 2% for the week and were 28% lower than the same week 1 year ago. Is China deflating? A lot of deflation in China right now. This is an article from CNBC. China's deflation could spill over into a global concern, economists say. And Peter Leeds has said that for quite some time now. They've got all sorts of problems. They've got too few young people. The demographics of that are really difficult because as their population ages, people need more nurses and things like that. And there's fewer young people to take care of them, to pay the expenses for them. And you know all about this big real estate meltdown. So many people have lost so much money and they're homeless, and it's through no fault of their own. Meanwhile, China is dealing with double-digit declines in imports and exports, and even the internal buying of Chinese products by Chinese people is down. China has been the growth engine of the world for so long. China's growth helped out a lot of other economies. Australia, for example. I mean, we could go on all day because it's all interconnected. Everything's connected. China's growth spilled out over into North America, into Europe, into South America. But what happens now that that's all reversed, or it's reversing? It's in the process of reversing. Their population crested and now it's coming down. Their economy crested. It's also coming down. Beijing's deteriorating economic fundamentals have become starkly apparent in recent months, with July's data broadly missing expectations. Come on, CNBC, try to keep up here. China's headline consumer price index fell 0.3% year on year in July to register deflation for the first time in 2 years, presenting an imposing problem to that faced by major central banks in the West. It's not faced by central banks, it's faced by people. Persistent deflation in China would likely spill over to developed markets as a weaker yuan and an elevated inventory to sales ratio lower the cost of Chinese goods abroad, said a PIMCO economist. This is a great example of how always realize that it's going to affect North America. You live in the United States, China gets a cold, we get a cold too sometimes. And while they're having this major real estate problem, that won't affect us directly as much because China's real estate is very compartmentalized. If you own real estate in China, you're almost certainly a Chinese person. or you can only own real estate if you're a Chinese person. But almost as far away as China, pretty close. We're talking about North Korea now. North Korea and Russia working together to get more weapons on the front lines in the Ukraine war. I saw this. I got an email from CNN with the 5 things of the day or whatever, and they're usually about Hunter Biden or a hurricane or a dog parade or something like that. But this one I saw, and I leaned forward, I grabbed my desk, and I pulled forward, I go, that's going to matter. Not that we didn't already know a little bit about this, but North Korean leader Kim Jong-un may travel to Russia to meet President Vladimir Putin for discussions on a potential deal to supply Moscow with weapons for its war on Ukraine. If Russia receives drones and missiles and weapons from North Korea, that isn't the same thing as them receiving the weapons from Iran. Iran has a certain level, a certain number of weapons, certain capabilities. North Korea is much more militarily powerful. And I'm not disparaging Iran by any means. I'm just saying that this is another level here. Kim Jong-un already doesn't like the West. Kim Jong-un has massive amounts of military supplies, even far beyond what Iran would be able to provide to Russia. The reason this is significant and how it will affect all of us, because it's going to affect the course of the war, first of all, and how much involvement we have and the ways in which we're involved, but also how we deal with North Korea. So what do you do about all of this? There's a lot of other things going on as well, and I'll keep bringing you the headlines that stand out to me when I see them. But there's a lot of stuff you can do. If you're like me, and against most economists, you believe there's going to be a recession. I've got videos about things to do to prepare for a recession that'll really help you out. I've been going more towards precious metals and away from speculative stocks and even general blue chip stocks, with the exception of commodity-based companies, oil, gold. Educating myself, trying to spend less money. But one of us is Drew, and he said some of the things that he's doing. I'll tell you just the highlights, and if you want to read the whole thing, it's on screen, and it's also below in the comments. But here's the highlights. $4,300, $3,056.54 off 2 buys of Hecla Mining. But here's the best part. I want to tell you this exact part because it's so significant. All of this is a result of your newsletters, books, videos, and online course. And I wrote back to Drew and I told him it's always the people who really understand the fundamentals and they learn each aspect of investing that always do the best. Understand the markets in the way that we understand them. There's a lot of other people that have different strategies. Maybe they're better, maybe they're worse. But if you want to learn the Peter Leeds way, I've shown you guys the way it's worked for me really well my whole life. And if you could only do one of the things that were mentioned in that email, get the 3rd edition of Penny Stocks for Dummies. I don't make a penny if you buy it. That is one of the best financial books ever written.